Well, hello everybody. Glad you are here. I'm Dan, your friendly fishmonger from dansfish.com. And today I'm going to respond to a request I've had, several requests I've had, to talk about the shipping materials I use when I pack and ship fish and how to source those materials. So I've done a couple of videos on how I ship fish. One is very extensive. If you want to look at it, I take you through the whole process on how to seal the bags, how to select bags, how to prepare fish, how to prepare the water to ship the fish, all that. Today though, we're going to focus on the materials used and where you can get that stuff. Jan, this is for you and the other folks who've requested this information. So if you're into shipping fish, or if you've wondered about how to ship fish, this should be interesting for you. If you're not into shipping fish, this is probably going to be super boring, just so you know. Anyway, let's get to it. Alright, so we're over here at the shipping station. Let me show that to you and talk about the different things we use. So, here's the shipping station. It's nothing grand, it's just a cheap table that I got at, I don't know, Walmart or Home Depot or something. A cheap plastic folding table, 6-foot table. By a sink, which is super useful. And here's kind of the basic supplies. So here's some examples of some shipping boxes. These are priority mail boxes, and this is the insulation I use. I make this myself. I go to Home Depot and I get 3/4 inch styrofoam insulation meant for housing, and I use a hot wire cutter and I cut out the pieces so they fit nice and snug. If you notice on this, I've left the coating on, but I found after a while that that's a little hard on the hot wire cutter, so I started stripping that coating off. So I'd recommend stripping most of that coating off. It just makes it easier on the hot wire cutter to cut through it. And there it is. So it's 6 pieces. There's a bottom piece and then these 4 side pieces, all cut to fit in nice and snug. So that is how I make the insulation that goes into my packaging. Or I guess I'm not really showing you how I make it with the hot wire cutter, but I use a hot wire cutter and make all these. A sheet of 4x8 3/4 inch thick styrofoam insulation from Home Depot, I think runs under 15 bucks, and you can get a lot of boxes out of it. So it's not terribly expensive. The issue is the time. It takes a long time to make these, and the other issue is the hot wire cutter itself isn't necessarily cheap. So it takes a lot of time. There's a little money to be put out, but if you can get a hot wire cutter, you can make boxes as much as you like. You want to do it out in a well-ventilated area. You can use a knife to cut them, but I stopped doing that. You get ragged edges, and also there's fumes that are released that are just, I don't know if they're toxic, but they're definitely not pleasant. So I'd recommend a hot wire cutter. If you don't want to make your own insulation, there are some companies online you can buy from. I never have. I know that Corey from Aquarium Co-op did a video where he talked about where he gets his stuff. It's like aqpk.com or something, aquaticpackaging.com is what it stands for. But if you just Google insulation fish shipping, I found like 3 or 4 spots that popped up instantly, including that store. So if you don't want to cut your own, you can source them, but you are going to pay $4 to $5 per liner that way, I think, is the average. So there's a little cost there. So that's the liners in the boxes. The boxes, by the way, these are free from the post office. If you don't want to use these boxes, or you want to ship a different method, then you can get any size shipping box you want at uline.com, uline.com. That's where I source my other boxes. I don't have any out, but I have different size boxes, like a 12x12x12 box, a 10x10x8 box, things like that, for shipping larger fish like discus and stuff. Anyway, moving on to the bags. These are the basic bags I use. So I'm just going to show you real quick so you can kind of see the information on them. I get these all from Uline. I buy them in packs of 1,000. They're extremely cheap per bag, but you do have to, buy them in bulk. But Uline will sell to retail clients. And basically the thing you want to look for on these bags is you want to get a pretty thick ml, okay? So right here it shows you what I mean. Here, let's turn this, might be easier. So this is Uline poly bags, polycarbonate I think is what these are called, I don't know exactly. This is the kind, this is the S-1510. These are 4 inches by 12 inches and they're 4 mils. That's important. A lot of bags are only 1 mil, 2 mils. If possible, you want to get 4 mils, maybe even thicker, but I found 4 mils works well. It's a nice thick tough bag and it's not so thick that it's hard to heat seal. So that's what I usually use. Now this is a standard bag. There are some pleated bags I use too. This one's a little thinner because it doesn't come in 4 mils. This is a 4 by 2 inch pocket that's 12 inches high. So this one, sorry, I've got to use my hand here. This one is pleated, so it's wider when you open it up. This is good for like angelfish, larger fish than you could fit into this one that's just a 4 by 2 inch bag. So this 4 by 2 inch, it opens up as just a flat bag. Hopefully this shows up on camera. This pleated bag is like a little sandwich bag almost. It's nice and wide. These are the two bags that I use the most. This 4 by 12 at 4 milliliters and this 4 by 2 by 12 pleated at 3 milliliters, which I wish came in 4 milliliters, but doesn't. Now I also have a larger size pleated bag. These guys are 5 by 3 by 15, so that's larger if I do larger fish. Some of those cichlids I'm getting from Africa are probably going to need that. And then this is a non-pleated bag that's 4 milliliters, but a 6 by 14. Now, I buy them by the thousand, so I haven't bought them in a few months, so I don't really remember the exact cost, but they're not too expensive. Per bag, they're pretty darn cheap. Buying 1,000 can get a little pricey, but they last forever if you buy 1,000 packs. So, yeah, you do pretty good. Now, one thing about these pleated bags is that it's... Here, let me see if I can take you to a darker surface where this might show up better. Here, let's try this. Okay. So the bottom here, the pleat, this is only 2 layers, but on each side where the pleat is, now it's 4 layers. That makes it a little harder to heat seal these. So I did have a batch that I used a couple weeks ago that actually the seal that came from the manufacturer was leaking a little bit, it looks like. Often that leak is right here between where the 2 layers and the 4 layers are. So to combat that when you heat seal these, what I do now is I just seal the bottom myself to make sure it's sealed. And when you do that, the trick with these heat sealers, which I'll show you in a second, is to not be in a rush. So when you put the bag in there and push this down to seal it, hold it there, you'll hear it click, which means it's done sealing. Hold it for another couple seconds, and then you should get a nice seal on it. If you're in a rush, these pleated bags are extremely difficult to seal. Let's move on to the impulse sealer. This is, let me see if I can get this off so I can show you. I have this, just a sec. This black strap on it just to keep it kind of closed during storage. But this is the sealer I use. I got this from Uline as well, I think. And this is the model number and everything. So that's what I have. American International Electric Company makes this. I've used this thing for years. I've literally shipped thousands upon thousands of fish with it, and I'm pretty happy with it. It comes with a replacement. So this is Teflon here to keep it from sticking, which is held in. The Teflon goes over the heating element, which runs along here. Then this is a silicone top to press it all down and keep everything from sticking. So that's what it is. It comes with some replacement Teflon and heating elements. After using this sucker for, I don't know, 3-4 years, maybe longer, and doing literally thousands upon thousands of fish with it, I'm just now getting to the point where I'm going to replace that Teflon for the first time. This sucker can do a ton of fish, ton of bags. And I don't think it was that expensive. If I remember right, it was under $100. I think it was around 85, 90 bucks for this thing. I don't remember exactly though. But this is the type I use. This is a knob that allows you to adjust how long the heating element is hot for. On a single bag that isn't pleated, I tend to do about 3. On the pleated bags, I go a little bit higher because it's got to go through 4 layers on the sides when it's sealing them. And again, the trick is to not be in a hurry. If you're in a hurry, you can tear the bag or not get a good enough seal. If you're not in a hurry, you'll generally be okay. So when you try to seal, start low, do some practice ones. If it works, great. If not, turn it up a bit. If that doesn't work, turn it up a bit. You'll finally find the point where it seals well, but isn't so hot it's melting through the bag. And so you just have to experiment to figure out exactly which temperature setting to put it on and how long to hold it down and things like that. So here's the operating instructions. Pretty standard, pretty simple. If you want to look at that. And yeah, that's pretty much what I use there. Now folks have also asked me to talk about, I use oxygen when I ship fish. You don't have to. There was, for years and years, I shipped fish, a couple decades, without using pure oxygen. But it allows you to use a smaller bag, and it allows you to just have peace of mind that the fish are, getting enough oxygen in the bag. And I want to talk about this just a little bit. There's information on the internet that has been around forever and in forums and things like that. This says that there are fish that you shouldn't use pure oxygen with, that you shouldn't use it with corridors, for example, because they go up and gulp air and things like that. And I'm here to tell you that me personally, I've always shipped cories with pure oxygen. I've never had a problem. So it works fine for them, in my experience. I don't know where that first came from, the idea that it hurts cories, but I think it's just people assumed that breathing pure oxygen would be bad for them. But in my experience, it hasn't been. I've shipped lots of cories, pure oxygen, no problem. I haven't done it with like air-breathing bettas and things like that, just because I haven't shipped a lot of those when I had this set up. But yeah, it works great with cories. Just so you know, that's my experience. Now I know that I know a lot of people are going to be like, you can't do that, but I'm here to tell you I've done it for years and years and years, and it hasn't been a problem. So just putting that out there. Now let me show you the oxygen setup. So it's this sucker here, and it's basically, you go to a welding supply shop and you can get a cylinder like this with oxygen in it, and it's like 97% pure oxygen or something like that, and it's really great. If you get medical grade oxygen, you're going to pay out the nose for it, but if you go to a welding supply shop, you can get this set up, and it's a lot cheaper, and it's just fine. Now, one thing I would like to do eventually is get an oxygen concentrating unit, so I don't have to have pressurized cylinders in my room, just because there's an element of danger to having something that pressurized and that flammable in your home. So eventually I'll get a machine that is an oxygen concentrator that just concentrates oxygen as I need it. But until then, this is what I'm using. You'll need to get one of these at your local welding supply shop, and here's a regulator that goes on it so that you can get the amount. This is a mass regulator, so when you open this up, it'll shoot way up. But this is your fine-tune dial, so you can adjust it. So you only have like 5 or 10 pounds coming out if you want. So you can really fine-tune this thing to control how much air is shooting out. And that's what you need. And then the welding shop should be able to get a hose for you that can take the pressure. And on the end, what I did is I went to an auto supply shop and got this sucker, which is used to like dust off cars and clean stuff. So it's a little nozzle that is made for pressurized air. I don't remember how much it was, maybe 15 bucks or something like that. And that's how you can have your oxygen in a way that is super simple to get it into the bag with this skinny hose right here. So that's the basic setup. Your oxygen with your regulator and your hose with the nozzle on it. Your heat sealer, at least that's what I use. Your bags, your boxes, and your insulation. That's pretty much the supplies I use, and that's where I source them from. So for Jan and the other folks that were asking, that's what I have for you. If you have any more follow-up questions or want something more specific or anything like that, please leave a comment below. I'd be happy to answer them. We can get a discussion going. But that's really the supplies I use pretty much. Now, you don't have to use a heat sealer. People can use rubber bands. People can use breather bags. Some people tie bags. Some people use metal clasps on bags. There's all kinds of ways to do it. But this is the way I do it, and it's worked for me for a long time, so that's why I still do it. I've tried most of the other methods, and this is what works. So these are the supplies. uline.com is a great resource for boxes and for bags. For insulation lining for boxes, Home Depot, get the sheets, or Kohl's or whatever big box, home improvement store you have. In a hot wire cutter, you can make your own, or you can purchase them online. There's lots of places if you just Google, again, shipping fish insulation. Google that, a bunch will pop up. Uline has insulation as well, but I think their insulated boxes are like expensive, especially when they ship to you, because they're shipping you a big box. So anyway, if there's any questions, let me know, but I hope this is useful to those of you that were wondering what the supplies are and where to get them. For everyone else, I bet that was so boring, but thanks for being here anyway. All right, till next time.